Right everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're here for my round 14 AFL footy tips. Now, obviously before we get into round 13, you're probably wondering, mate, where the fuck are you? You're not in your normal setup. That's because I am currently still in Perth. Now, you'll find out in the next few days. I had a really hectic week in terms of like all the stuff I went to. Was supposed to be here for the Bunbury game. You'll get a video on that soon as well coming out. But overall, like in terms of the round of footy, what a shit round. I mean, the highest score is 81 points from 8 games of footy. You're very lucky, honestly, that I picked the round to not really be getting to watch many of the games. Let's just go through tipping in round 13 before anything else. We'll address a little bit more, obviously, different environment, different setup, maybe even different audio. Round 13 started off, as usual, forgetting to tip. Now, I was supposed to tip the Bulldogs, but they gave me Hawthorn, I think. So, you know what? Actually take that. If they did give me Hawthorn, I'm not too sure if they did or not. Next game was Friday night footy. I was there on the Adelaide Oval. Didn't record a vlog or anything like that, but just went there for the fun of it. And it was a good game of footy. Adelaide won it by 5, so I got technically my first tip right. Richmond v Sydney. Now, I got sucked into last week. I went the Tigers, and they started well. Got a really poor, next 3 quarters really. Geelong got, so I watched literally 0% of all of these games because I was just too involved around the biggest game, the State of Origin game that night. But Geelong beat Gold Coast, which was good. And I don't know how GWS lost to Port Adelaide. That is pretty surprising. That was my next game I got wrong. Sunday, we had at Hands Oval, a game that I travelled to, flowed over 3,000 kilometres to and didn't watch a second of. We'll talk a bit more about that later. Was a game that also was an incorrect tip. West Coast should have won though. The scoring chance is really pissed off about that one. Carlton v Essendon. I expected Carlton to win in the way they didn't, and it was a win. And then today I did stream the King's birthday game on the Monday, and I said that the Pies were going to get the win, and they did. So overall, I think I got a legitimate 4 out of 8. Not amazing, but we'll move on. So let's just take a look at round 13, and the highest scorer was Jackson 30. He tipped a score of 7 using his joker, so he only got 1 wrong using the joker. Abu, Hamzy Cripper, Rubble 23, Aiden Bulldogs, and Liam the Man Beast also in the top 5 there. Best scorer overall, so we're taking a look, and it's 0-32, so he's still with a really good score. He got a 6 last week. He's on 98. Sumit Batani still up there. Kathy Foden, Fernando Fazio, and Riley Fitz. You're getting weekly shout-outs, and it's really good that you guys are continuing your tips and not doing silly things like forgetting. Now, not many people would have used their jokers for this week, clearly, because of the shortened amount of games, but we did have a couple of people get a perfect score. So Taiwa and Feza Zapula. Very interesting name, but very good stuff from you guys because you got perfect score and you get that extra point. So let's now head to something you guys certainly want to be tuning in for, and those are the big calls. Now, I made it well publicised and documented for last week that if I didn't get 2 big calls correct this week, that I would have to get a shaved head and bleached hair. And I was, riding on all these games, and unfortunately, all of the pricks that were supposed to get up for me let me down, and I have to now shave my head and bleach it. Charlie Curnow kicks 5 more goals. So for those wondering, that'll be happening next week. But that also doesn't mean that's the only punishment I have to do, because I did say if it was, I didn't get those 2 calls correct, that I'll do as well the most like comment. And once again, it's Grookey does AFL. He put in with 182 likes that I have to stream and watch the Telstra whistling ad on loop for 2 hours. Now, thing is, right, I already uploaded a video onto that on More Cardman for preparation. So that'll be out this Wednesday on my second channel. The link's in the description. But thank you, Jay Tomo, because now I really do have to change my hair, but that'll be a little bit later on. So, disappointing all around my big calls, disappointing with my tips. A lot of disappointing things happened this week, but that's, not much else you can do about it. So last week in fantasy was bad. I was speaking to Andy Munro on the Hill, and he told me that a few of my trades that I made were plays that weren't going to play. And on the Saturday, I completely forgot to actually make those trades because I was too involved in other stuff. So another really bad week of mine. I'm dropping in the rankings. I think I got a 1693. Caleb Mitchell didn't end up playing. If I don't check the team sheets, I'm going to get screwed over. And obviously Bailey Smith didn't play either. So just another shit week of fantasy after I said I'd perform better last week. But we'll just go through quickly my own league. And the overview of my own league is still Jacob does fantasy, but he's not number 1. He's now 2nd overall in the entire of AFL fantasy. Remember, voting is now also open for round 13, so get your votes in after the King's birthday game for your 3-2-1s. Links in the pinned comment and in the description. And at the end of the year, I'll be going through the best plays for a bit of an awards night live stream, and kind of like the Brownlow, it'll be good fun. So make sure you get your voting in down below. And we want to keep getting the subscribers up. We're trying to head to every stadium in the country. We did that with Bunbury. We're getting the content for the year pumping. 6 60k is the goal. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it. Most of you guys aren't already subscribed. Let's see that number go up as we head into our round 14 tips. So starting things off on the Thursday night, currently in Perth still, and I won't be leaving till Wednesday, and this will be the day after that. Is the Thursday night, my team, the Saints, taking on the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. 7% of the people are going for the Saints, but to be honest with you, there's maybe a chance after the bye. I feel like as well with the Bulldogs last week against the Hawks, a lackluster outing. It proves that they're finally beatable at Marvel, because I don't think they lost a game at Marvel, the Bulldogs, in like 11 or 12 outings. The last loss before that was actually against Brisbane, and funnily enough, that was on the same night as the biggest game of Div 12 Resi. So if there's ever a biggest game of Div 12 Resi on in 2025 or 2026, and it's at Marvel for a Dogs game, don't tip the Dogs, because they play crap on the same weekend. But yeah, they were just pretty average, like middle of the ground. They never really got going. Hawthorn got on top in the first quarter, and Bulldogs didn't really get to any chance of picking back that margin. I thought there was a chance maybe heading into that third quarter or three-quarter time that they were going to run over Hawthorn, but Hawthorn defended really well. They were tougher, which is something we didn't see from Hawthorn the last 3 weeks. So the Bulldogs were pretty average. Aaron Norton was really poor up forward. Someone's saying he might, be a chance of getting dropped, but I think he might have a big game against the Saints. He normally does. The Saints, I think, have a chance of winning this game. We're fresh off the bye. We might be getting a Jack McRae back into the side, and I feel like if we apply the pressure that we can at Marvel, then we have a chance, because the Bulldogs crumbled under Hawthorn's pressure last week, and we've got to continue last week's efficiency. We've got to be efficient up goal, which we actually sort of have been this year. So getting enough chance inside 50, win that clearance count, maybe the Bulldogs midfield is going to be a hard one to beat. Look, I'm not massively confident. Whenever we play the Bulldogs, I seem to have faith in us, and then we always do poorly. Every single game that the Saints and the Dogs play, and it's either a smashing to either side, but normally it's the Bulldogs that get the better hand. And last year on the Thursday night, it was no exception. So the last two times we played the Dogs, we've lost by 60 more points. I think because we're fresh off the bye, and the fact that the Dogs have had a poor week last week might give us a bit of a chance. The Dogs are also a bit overrated now heading into this game. If they're ninth on the ladder and everyone thinks they're one of the best sides in the comp, they lose this game, it'd be a pretty bad position for the Bulldogs to be in right now. But I think the Bulldogs should be a safe tip here. I know I go for the Saints and all that, but I need to be safe. I need to get a couple of tips right here, and I think the Dogs probably win on the Thursday night, but I hope the Saints get up. I'll be there for a vlog as well at the game. A big call, though. I said before, Norton, I think he's actually going to have a big game. Always performs well against the Saints. I'm going to have him to kick 4 or more goals, despite him not doing that once this season. Next up, we have Hawthorn taking on Adelaide on the Friday night. Now, you're obviously wondering what is happening with the Scarves. Obviously, different environment. I haven't got the Scarves with me. It'll be back for next week. But yeah, Hawthorn v Adelaide, I'm looking forward to this one. I attended last week's Friday night game, Adelaide Oval against Brisbane. And after attending a really good game last week, we'll be going back-to-back interstate Friday night games. And this one's going to be another belter to watch live, I feel. Now, I haven't got the flights yet. And in all fairness, I can't afford the flights yet. But yeah, we'll worry about that when the game happens. It's still a few days away. Hawthorn finally proved they can beat a good side last week against the Dogs. Everyone was questioning their toughness at the footy. They finally got back to their tackling best. I think they recorded like 82, which is their best or second best statistic for the entire year. They played a full 4 quarters of footy and really looked like a really damaging side. That side that was performing really well in the back end of 2024. I thought Chol had one of his best games. He proved to be a really good target. And Ginnivan, he did something stupid to the crowd, but he's backing it up with some pretty good performances. He's been also in some pretty good form. So Hawthorn actually ended up kicking the highest score of the round with 81 points, which is actually the lowest highest score apart from a game in 2020 or round in 2020 since 1967. So this is going to be a hard one because Adelaide are coming off a really good round. This is sort of this big game for Adelaide that really proved if they're going to be a side that could contend for the 4. Massive win for their top 4 hopes. It's a weird one because I thought the Lions were probably the better side for longer, but Adelaide pulled through in the last kick, kicking 5 goals straight, and it was poor conditions in the wet, but I thought Dawson was good, Laird was good, Keys, they were instrumental in the win, and I think the Crows right now are heading into this one with some good form and some confidence. It'll be hard though because at UTAS I normally always tip the Hawks, but I have a feeling, a sneaky suspicion that Adelaide might come away with an upset. Odds are basically even for this game, but I think the firepower just suits a little bit more towards the Crows, and I think they're going to get it done in a really good game. I'm going to go them by... Oh shit. Technical difficulties. There we go. I'm going to go the Crows, I reckon, to win this game by 9 points with a big call that both sides at any stage of the game get 4 or more goal streaks. Alrighty guys, we now head to the Saturday games. We've got 3 for the Saturday. We start at 1:20 p.m. at the Gabba. This is between Brisbane and GWS, and I'm looking at the percentages for tipsters. 97% of people are going the Lions here after the Giants' shock loss to the Power last week. I said before, I didn't watch really any games on Saturday. I was playing footy at Norwood whilst this game was on. I looked at the scores at the end, and I just couldn't have pictured it. I did not expect a Giants outfit after last week's poor outing to back it up with an even worse outing, to be honest with you, against the crap Port Adelaide side that actually put out a decent performance after the bye. They only scored 1 goal after half-time. They didn't score anything in the third quarter, and apparently could have been a lot worse if it wasn't for Sam Taylor. He was actually one of their best players, one of the best players on the ground. Yeah, disappointing from the Giants. They're such an inconsistent side because their last 5 or 6 weeks is really poor. They've had some bad losses against some pretty, mediocre sides. But they ended up beating Geelong and Geelong not that long ago as well. So it's going to be a tough one for the Giants here. They might be without Toby Green as well because he was off at half-time. Brisbane, they'll be back at home after a pretty wasteful finish last week. They should have won the game. I thought Levi Ashcroft was their best. 6 behinds in that last quarter. They peppered the goals. They had opportunities. I thought they were going to, get the win because I thought they were going to have the experience, but they didn't. I still think with the Lions here, they probably should obviously come back and, respond with a win to stay in the top 2 because it's kind of a vital game for them. They lose this and Adelaide win. Despite all this, though, the Giants, for whatever reason, play very well away from home against some good sides. I said it before last year, they're so inconsistent, the Giants. They can be either extremely good or just shit house. And I feel like the extremely good version of the Giants is going to come out because you always expect the Giants to be in and around the 8 or the 4. And I think this is around that time of year where they're going to start getting a few players back and just finding a bit of their form. They did it last year against the Lions. And I know the Lions, this is the sort of time of year where they start to play good footy as well. But I'm actually going to say, like last year, the Giants respond in a really big way in an upset and they're going to beat the Lions. I mean, I'm that far away in my tipping comp. I genuinely think they have a chance here, and I'm going to go the Giants. So we're going to tip them by 17 points. My big call that Lockie Ash and Whitfield combined for 235 or more fantasy. Next up, we have the only game in Victoria on the Saturday. In fact, I think it's the last game of Victoria in the entire round. So we only have 2 games in Vic for the entire round. It's between Essendon and Geelong, and this is the annual country game, and a very tough one for Essendon to win here, given, where they're at right now, I guess, with their injuries. They probably should have beat Carlton, but that terrible first quarter cost them. Yeah, that was probably the difference between the two sides at the end of the day. I think the margin was 33 points at one stage. They're probably the better side after quarter time, but that first quarter, as I said before, cost them. They had some good runs here and there, but they were very far off, and it proves that they're just not going to be a finals contender. Their percentage is too low, and the wins that they're needing to get, such as the ones against Carlton, these big ones, didn't happen, and I can't see it happening against Geelong, because I think Geelong right now, they're humming. I think they've definitely got the easiest draw now in the AFL to finish off the year. They cruised past the Suns in the second lowest scoring game of the year last week in the rain. I think it was 61-37. Shocking game, but it's a pretty positive sign as well that they won the game without Bailey Smith because, he was out last minute before the game, and I know they I think early in the year, Bailey Smith was out last minute against the Saints, and they lost that game, so they got it done without Baz. The Suns were pretty poor as well, though, in the wet, it has to be said, but the Cats at home got it done again. I just can't see the Bombers winning a game like this, in my opinion. I feel like this is the sort of game the Bombers just, have maybe 1 or 2 good quarters. Like last year, the Cats are just a much better side, so the Cats have the wood over Essendon over the last few years, and I think they're going to make it 8 in a row with their 8th win, and I'm going to say comfortably as well. I'm going to say the Cats win by 37 points. A big call. I'm going to say the Cats win any half of footy by 40 or more points. Final game on the Saturday, and we have North Melbourne taking on Fremantle. As I'm getting the lights back on here. I thought I waved my hands around was going to be fixing the problem. North Melbourne last week, or yesterday, they had one of the more disappointing wins I've ever seen from a club of all time. Now, I say that I listened to the game on the radio, but I was keeping up to date with this game whilst on the flight, whilst on the radio, even though I missed the whole thing, supposed to be there. I thought they were really lucky and escaped victory when they really should have been down by a lot more. West Coast had so much opportunities in the first half especially, but they were just so bad at kicking. I think they were 114, 115 at one stage. They had so many were inside 50s. The North got a few goals. I think they were accurate in the third quarter and got like 3 goals or 2 goals straight. And that last quarter, they hammered on the goals and they overran the Eagles. They're having a good last quarter. Cherry was pretty good. Sim can kick the match winner, but I wouldn't be proud of that effort from a North Melbourne point of view because you're playing one of the weaker sides in West Coast, and they were pretty average for 3 quarters. They really made the quality of the game look a lot worse than what it was. I feel like they'll probably get hammered by Fremantle if they play like that this week. So with Fremantle, obviously they just had the bye, but they're 3 on the trot. They're in some extremely good form. Yeah, despite obviously this being a North Melbourne home game, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. It's more of a free home game for Freo. And I think North Melbourne could have a few decent quarters here and there, but ultimately Fremantle, their form right now is too good to drop games like this. And they're the sort of side that can, if they want to, put a number on some of the poorer sides. Now, look, I'm just an outsider. I'm not, that big into Freo, so we'll get a Freo's fan opinion on this game. What do you reckon?
Well, Mate, I'm a bit worried about the ruck contest. I think if Darcy's going against Cherry could absolutely demolish him like he did to Flynn yesterday. Well, we wouldn't really see it, but I heard it and the stats said so.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, Cherry had one of the best games of any player this round.
I reckon he could do the same to Darcy, but I think for a wrestler around the ground should be able to cover North quite easily. I'll go Freo by 40, I'll go Tracy and a miss to combine for 7 goals.
I think Fremantle are going to win relatively comfortably, but I think North can make it competitive. I actually think they start well, so I'm going to say Freo by 30. North to kick 4+ first quarter goals. And also, by the way, I'll be streaming this game on the Saturday night with a couple special North fan guests, so stay tuned for that. Rightio, we head to the Sunday games. Now, I'll be streaming both of these back in my normal setup. We start the Adelaide Oval, put Adelaide take on Melbourne. I actually think this is probably the most underrated game of the round. Now, I know you might be thinking, you got Hawthorn v Adelaide, you got a couple other good games, but yes, I know these two sides probably won't be making finals, but I think this is going to be a very evenly matched game. Another game between some very inconsistent sides, it has to be said, especially Port Adelaide. I thought Port were absolutely done. I thought they weren't going to win many more games to finish off the year, and I thought GWS surely back at home, Canberra, they'll find a way to win. But in a game that I watched nothing of, it was a very, very impressive performance. Yeah, it was good to see finally Rosie and Butters have a good game, both in the same game as well. Gritty effort in a cold conditions in Canberra, and I think Rioli had a decent game, kicking 2 goals as well. Now, I watched the Melbourne game today on the stream for King's birthday, and I thought they were robbed. They had many chances late that, honestly, composure was also another reason what cost them there with Gawn in the end, and Oliver and Fritsch shouldn't have played on a few times. But if they play like that every week, they're going to be a finals contending side, and they've actually been a good side the last 6 or 7 weeks, it has to be said. Even against St Kilda, they were poor, but they had enough entries, I felt like, to possibly win the game. Melbourne were good. They deserved the win. Collingwood just found a way because they're classier. I think in this sort of game, if the two sides match up given their last 5 weeks based on what side's more capable, I think the D's win this game. They're more capable of playing good footy. I know it's at the Adelaide Oval, and I know Port Adelaide got a really good win last week, but, Pickett, Fritsch, Gawn, Track, they're in some good form. I am going to say, in a really good game of footy, maybe even a high-scoring one, that the D's get up in a thriller. I'm going to say the D's win this game by 5 points, and I'm going to go my big call. I'll say that there are 2 quarters won by each side. We'll go an even split. Now, the round ends where I am right now, obviously being Perth between West Coast and Carlton. In fact, you know what? We may as well recall this prediction at the ground since we're like 5 minutes away from it. So we're outside of Optus Stadium here for the final game of the round, and on the Sunday night, West Coast will be taking on Carlton. Now, obviously on the weekend, West Coast had a game where they really should have won. I wasn't, as I said earlier, watching much of this game, listening to a lot of it on the radio, but at one stage, they were 1 goal 14 after halftime. Like, that is bad. Even for West Coast standards, they should have won the game. They were dominating for longer, but North Melbourne overran them in the last. And even though they've been putting up some more impressive and competitive performances in the last 4 to 5 weeks, you haven't really seen it yet still with the results, apart from that one game against the Saints. I mean, against Carlton, they're at home. You could give themselves a slight chance, but Carlton seem to always put a number on West Coast. Honestly, no matter where they are in terms of form, the Blues did win last week. They keep their season alive against Essendon. It doesn't really change my perspective at all on Carlton. I still think they're that average side that can beat up on the worst of sides, but against the better sides, the quality difference is certainly there. I think the average winning margin for Carlton against West Coast under Michael Voss, if I'm not mistaken, is around 70 points. So based on form and history, I just can't really see Carlton dropping a game like this. I feel like they know what's on the line. Maybe they can make a mini push for finals. West Coast, I feel like they're going to have a bit of an off one at Optus. As you can see, we're right outside of Optus, and I think the Blues are going to win this game. I'm going to go by 50 points. I'm going to go a big one. And I know last week I backed in Kerner for 5 and he didn't, help me out. I'm going to back him in again. He normally plays a pretty good game against the Eagles, and I think he will kick 5 or more goals. So that wraps up my tips for round number 14. We went with the Bulldogs, then we went with Adelaide, GWS on the Saturday, Geelong and Fremantle, and then on the Sunday we went Melbourne and Carlton. Now, I do have a massive week of content coming up, obviously still in Perth. I'll be doing a stream later tonight and a few more bits of content, as you can see on the screen, throughout the week. And I don't normally like to say this, but because of myself getting screwed over with flights and basically wasting $1,000, I haven't yet been able to afford my trip to Launceston, which I need to do for my stadium video. So I'll figure out a way of doing that, hopefully. But if you guys want to help out any way of support, up there are any links to one of the, just chuck in like $5 or so for like my PayPal or Pay ID. Yeah, it'd be quite appreciative. I got screwed over this week and we're still in Perth because the next flight I can afford isn't until tomorrow. I do appreciate the support. We're still on the grind, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.